So in the interest of time, we're going to get the program going. But before we jump into the main part of our program, just wanted to recognize some folks who have been supporting chamber events and forums over many years. They do such a great job. We come here a lot to the Holiday Inn. As some of you may know, this hotel is going through a transition. So we're going to be away for a little while, but what a great staff we've been able to work with over the years. So just wanted to recognize Chef John, Michaela, Eva, Diane, Christiana, and Denise for all that you do to really work with us and put on these great events. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So a special thank you to Granite VNA for sponsoring this very important event. This amazing organization is celebrating its 125th year of service in this region. The subject matter of today's discussion is critical. From my perspective, this is a workforce issue, but it goes well beyond that, and it is also very much a quality of life issue. And I will not steal the thunder of our host, who I will introduce now to set the table for the program and also to introduce our panelists. So Beth Slepian, MBA PT, is President and CEO of the Granite VNA, which is New Hampshire's largest home health and hospice organization that serves thousands of patients and families each year throughout 75 communities. In her role as CEO, Beth works closely with leadership and the Board of Trustees in developing and implementing the agency's strategic plan, focusing on caring for the community, quality, innovation, talented workforce, and community partnerships. Beth is active in the community and serves on many boards of directors, including the National Alliance for Care at Home, Catch Neighborhood Housing, the Home Care, Hospice, and Palliative Care Alliance of New Hampshire, and additionally, Beth has extensive advocacy experience working with state and national leaders to ensure increased opportunities for in-home care needs. And I can tell you, Beth served on my board of directors for a number of years. She was just an outstanding board member, so a great community leader. So please welcome Beth Slepian.
So I know most of you in the room. It's nice to see everybody. Thank you, Tim, for that nice introduction. And for those of you who know me, I hate my bio. I'm just me, right? But I am lucky enough to lead Granite VNA. We provide care from birth through end of life to our neighbors, our friends, and our entire community. We're fortunate to have 425 team members, and we really expand our services are from the Manchester area all the way through the Lakes region. My favorite fun fact is our team travels over 1.5 million miles a year to care for our community. And we think of New Hampshire as such a small state, but that's a lot of miles. So we're here because November is Home Care and Hospice Month, and as we celebrate our milestone anniversary, we also want to take the opportunity to shine a light on the vital role of family caregivers in our community. This month also marks National Family Caregivers Month, highlighting the importance of education and meaningful discussions focused on caregivers in the workplace. I will tell you, I'm a physical therapist by training. I've cared for hundreds of patients, but I'm also the daughter of a 95-year-old mother who lives alone in her home 2 hours away with not enough services. So I feel everything that each of us experiences on a daily basis. A special thank you to the Concord Chamber of Commerce. It was a privilege to serve on their board in the community, and they've truly supported us in bringing attention to this important topic. So I'm pleased to introduce you to Richard Chevrefils, Steering Committee Chair for the New Hampshire Alliance for Healthy Aging. It's really because I can't see it, not because I can't read it. Dick retired as State Director of AARP Pennsylvania in 2011. Prior to that, Dick served as State Director of AARP in New Hampshire. Dick also held leadership roles with the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services, serving for 35 years, and volunteers for several community organizations, including mental health, adoption, and aging services. Please welcome Dick, who will introduce our moderate our panel discussion.
Good afternoon. Are you ready for the show to begin? Thank you, Beth. I oftentimes listen to introductions and I say, am I that old? Been around for a while and I've had an opportunity to work for people, and it's always a nice opportunity to share some of those experiences with folks like yourself, because you're so critical to the equation of making a difference in people's lives. Today we're going to focus in on caregiving and the business environment and the work environment and the critical role that employers play in supporting their employees who are also caregivers. And we'll get into that, and the panelists will come up and share different perspectives on the role that businesses play and some of the impacts on caregivers. But today's focus is principally on the critical role that the employer plays. But before we get into that, I wanted to recognize Granite Visiting Nurse Association and thank Beth and the Granite Visiting Nurse Association team for sponsoring today's event. I wasn't around 125 years ago, but I've had a lot of experience with visiting nurses, and I just wanted to relate to this. Back in 1970 and 72, 73, I was a social worker here in Merrimack County, working with families and children at risk. And the equation to success and helping those families reach a point of hope and the confidence to move forward and to care for themselves and to care for their children was a visiting nurse who was coming in, who was an educator, who provided health care, but provided more than anything else, hope for a family to move forward. Moving ahead 40, 50 years, I'm involved with Visiting Nurse Association, Granite Visiting Nurse Association, and working with Jen Brechtel and the work that the Visiting Nurse Association is doing to really support caregivers. Well, you know, and as Christina and Ryan get up here and speak, they're going to mention there are 168,000 or so caregivers in the state. And Granite Visiting Nurse Association has taken upon itself to be another leader, not only in the well-being of children and families, but in the well-being of all generations, and providing opportunities to support these families and these individuals. And Granite VNA is right there ahead. So thank you for sponsoring today. Thank you for inviting us to be a participant. Tim, I'm going to pick on you now. I want to thank the Greater Concord Chamber of Commerce and the Greater Chamber of Commerce team for hosting this event. It's special. We've been working, a number of us, reaching out to businesses across the state, and it's been somewhat of a challenge from time to time. And this is a real opportunity for us to work with all of you leaders who are employers, who are working within organizations, to share with you some of the issues regarding caregiving and the role that businesses play in supporting caregivers. I did a little bit of homework, and I read the mission of the Greater Chamber of Commerce. And it related to developing economic opportunities, strengthening the business climate, and creating a quality of life for people in the capital region. And that sort of just struck me. And then I stepped over here and I was looking at Facebook. And this may be a week or two ago, 3 weeks ago, and I look on the Facebook page, and there's the Community Connections group of the Greater Concord Chamber of Commerce, playing a role at that community level, enhancing the quality of life that goes beyond the business work that you do in terms of the work environment, the economic security of the community, but reaching out to the broader community. And the group, the Connections group, was working with NAMI New Hampshire, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, supporting their caregiver, their walk, and being a real active ingredient. So what I saw is an organization of individual strengths of different organizations coming together and the collective power of the Chamber of Commerce, not only working within the context of itself and its principal objectives, but reaching out to the community to make the community bigger and stronger and better. So thank you. Thank you for having us. I will end. I promise. I promise I will. I just wanted to share with you what I see as the goals, and I think the panelists see as the goals for today. One, we want to share information about the critical role that employers play in supporting their employees, who are also caregivers. We want to explore the characteristics of caregiving, both from the perspective of the employee and the employer, and look at some of the responsibilities and challenges that face both parties, and identify some resources that are available to help support the employer, whether it's a not-for-profit or a for-profit organization. And lastly, we want to grow impact. We want to make a difference at the community level. And I'm hoping, and I think our panelists are hoping, that from today you're going to take away some seeds of information that hopefully will germinate within your organization to help support your employees and the people who are also caregivers. And the last thing, the fourth objective or outcome we're hoping to achieve, is to hear from you. We'll hopefully have time for questions and answers, but it's important if you have some experiences within your organization relative to how your organization supports your employees in their various roles as a family caregiver, or just understanding that at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock that individual goes home and has a whole array of other responsibilities that they have to take on. And then you expect them to come back at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning and be full of energy and life and ready to do the work at hand. And it's so critical to support those people and to be aggressive with developing what I call a culture of understanding, a culture of caring within your organization. Now, we're going to have a quiz at the end, and I want to give you the answers right now so that you're ready, okay? First answer is community. Second answer is culture. And the third answer is hope. So community, culture, and hope. Now, you got the answers, so you don't have to worry about it. You'll be ready to go when the show starts. Why don't the panelists come on up? I'd like to introduce a person that I've worked with. I volunteer for the Alliance for Healthy Aging, but I also volunteer for AARP. And as it was mentioned by Beth, I was employed for AARP for 9 years, so I have the organization in my heart. And as Christina's come on to take on the role of state director in New Hampshire, she's done a fantastic job of really extending the organization into the community. And AARP is a large organization and touches the lives of people in a lot of different ways. But Christina Fitzpatrick will be presenting some information in a second. I'm going to introduce also her partner, but Christina really makes a difference. And it really is great to have the opportunity to work with her and to work with the staff here in Concord. Now, Ryan King is Vice President of Human Resources at Northeast Delta Dental. Ryan is relatively new to my working with him, but it's been a real pleasure to work with Ryan because of the attitude that he brings to the equation of getting the job done. But we've had some experience in working with Northeast Delta Dental, and I'm sure Ryan will share with you some of the achievements they've implemented, some of the achievements doesn't kind of come out right, but some of the achievements they've achieved, but in terms of supporting their employees. We've had the opportunity to work with Northeast Delta Dental with Connie Roy-Sanofsky over the years, and it's really always been a pleasure to work with Northeast Delta Dental, and especially now with Ryan King. So you have heard the best from Dick Cheverfields. Now I'm going to turn it over to Christine Fitzpatrick.
All right, thank you, Dick. And hello, everybody. It's nice to be here. And Tim, thank you for hosting this. And Beth, thank you. It's been It's been a great experience to prepare for this. Good. So I'm going to tell you about family caregiving. So what I want you to take away from my presentation today is I want you to have a better understanding of who family caregivers are, why it's important for businesses to support them, how you as a business can support them, and what resources are available. So there's a quote from Rosalind Carter that AARP talks about a lot, and she says, there are only 4 kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need care. So this is a topic that is important to all of us and relevant to all of us. And that's the fundamental reason why employers and all of us should care about supporting family caregivers. So family caregivers are adults who provide a wide array of services for their parents, spouse, adult child, friend, other loved one who needs assistance for either an acute care condition, so they just got released from the hospital after a car accident or something, or who has a chronic condition and they will need care for the rest of their lives. They provide help with a wide variety of tasks, so that can be filling a prescription, picking up groceries, but there are also personal care tasks like helping people get dressed, medical tasks like changing bandages and things like that. But they're also coordinating services. They might be hiring help to come in, dealing with insurance claims. I mean, the list goes on in terms of how much time it takes, how much energy it takes for people to perform these kinds of tasks. So as Dick mentioned, there are 168,000 family caregivers in New Hampshire. The typical family caregiver is a 48-year-old woman caring for her mother. But within that, we know that 25% of family caregivers are under the age of 35, and 40% of them are men. So this isn't just a women's thing, and it's not just a midlife and older women's thing. This is everybody. These folks, on average, provide about 18 hours of care per week, and that care is worth $2.8 billion per year. So if they weren't providing this care for free, we would have to figure out another way to pay for it if the people who are needing care are going to get it. These folks have about $7,000 in out-of-pocket expenses on average, and it takes a huge mental and emotional toll on people as they are trying to balance their lives, as they're trying to do all these tasks they've never done before. And as they're struggling, they might have just come into this role really unexpectedly, and now they're expected to figure it all out on their own. So that's the reason that AARP has gotten involved with this work and really pushed the need to support family caregivers. We're active in the legislature, we're active in educating people, and we are active in trying to educate employers about what they can do. So that's the first thing. Who are family caregivers? The second thing I want to talk about is why it's important to your business to support them. 168,000 family caregivers in New Hampshire, and a bunch of them are working. So it is likely that 1 in 5 of your employees are currently caring for an adult. So they are family caregivers. With the workforce shortages that employers across New Hampshire are experiencing, it's important to attract and retain workers. In the past 25 years, the labor force nationally has grown about 25%, and older workers have grown much more substantially. So in the past 25 years, the number of workers age 50 and older has grown 89%. The number of workers 65 and older has grown 183%. So as you are looking at your hiring strategies, your recruitment strategies, it's important to look at older workers. And older workers are more likely to be in a family caregiving role. So if you are recruiting this new population or recruiting them more, you need to know about what their experiences are and what their needs are. Family caregiving has an impact on people's employment. So they might need to take off some time during the day to take somebody to a doctor's office. 2/3 of them report having difficulty balancing work and family caregiving. 1/6 of them have had to stop work for some period of time because their family caregiving demands are so large. And 1/8 of them have changed employers. So the more that employers can do to support family caregivers, the more likely it is that these folks will stay on staff and that you as an employer can avoid the need to attract new staff. And we all know about how expensive that can be, both in dollars and in time. Adopting family caregiving policies can give businesses a competitive advantage. We know from the research that it can increase recruitment and retention. It can boost employee productivity. So if they're given, if workers have flex time or able to telecommute, they will be able to get their work done. It may not be right in the office, but they can get it done. It can increase employee morale. So when your employer is seeing you as a person, not just as somebody who's producing work, that will translate into more retention and greater engagement, which translates directly to the bottom line. And it can help prepare you for many challenges. So if you have a friendly, caregiver-friendly culture, you can do cross-training, things that can help. So if a worker has to be out for a certain period of time to help care for somebody, if you have done cross-training, then you're not going to miss a beat when one person has to be out. And that can help you not just with family caregivers, but lots of situations that may come up. So that's why it's important for businesses to support family caregivers. Now, these are different ways that employers can support them. And one of the easiest ways, least costly ways, is to share information about them. The Alliance for Healthy Aging has a lot of different resources. AARP has a lot of different resources. And I will just name a few. So this is a guide we call Prepare to Care. And it involves a bunch of worksheets that people can go through. And it's doing things like listing all of your mom's doctor's offices and where she gets her prescription filled and stuff like that. So when it comes up, you have it. You have all the phone numbers and things like that. So AARP will supply you with as many of these as you want. And so this is something that if you have this around, make it available, you are signaling to your staff that you understand the kinds of challenges that they face outside of work. You can, sorry, I lost my place. Okay, we have a family caregiving resource guide that talks about where people can go to get help. So Granite VNA is there, and lots of other home agencies that can help people to age at home. Another thing you could do is invite an expert to your workplace and have a brown bag lunch where somebody can give a presentation about what resources are available, helping connect people, and they're available for questions and answers. So those are two things that you can do that cost essentially nothing, but can make a big difference in the morale, employee morale and engagement. Some other things that you can do that could be a little more challenging but still not costly is to provide flexibility, both in terms of the hours that people work and the place where they work. So telecommuting, flexible scheduling, not every employer can do that. There are different business models, but a lot of employers can provide flexibility like that. You could allow workers to use their sick time not just for their own illnesses, their own doctor's appointments, but you can let them use the sick leave to care for somebody else. So whether it's a child or a family member, to take them to the doctors, to stay home with them when they need to. That's an adjustment that you can make. And then there are some other strategies that are a little more intensive, but still doable. So you can train managers about the needs of family caregivers and the way to support them. You can start an employee resource group, an employee assistance program directed at family caregivers, and the kind of gold standard, I would say, is providing paid family and medical leave so that the financial burden that these family caregivers face is alleviated somewhat. But of course, that's expensive, and I understand that. All right, so that was how to support them, and now I want to tell you about the resources that AARP has available. We have a website, it's aarp.org/employers, that has a whole host of information available. Some about caregiving, some about other topics like how to manage a multi-generational workforce. But you will find there reports that have the research about the effect of family caregiving policies on the bottom line. There is a guide here, and I brought copies of each of these. So it's Supporting Family Caregivers in the Workplace, a practical guide for employers to understand what they can do and how to do it. There are more extensive articles and things and resources going into all the things I discussed today, such as recruitment and hiring practices and case studies. So now we have a real live in-person case study here with Ryan, and I look forward to hearing about what you're going to talk about.
Thank you. I'm going to give it a whirl without this. Can everybody hear me? This was my radio voice when I worked in radio. And
All right.
What do we say, right? I have a great face for radio. So I am going to ask a couple questions, and this isn't to pile on Dick's quiz at the end of the day here. How many people work with someone that has been impacted by caregiver responsibilities? Just raise your hands. It looks like everybody, right? And that's where we as a company approach it. We have the mindset that everybody's going to be affected by this at some point, one day or another. And it's so great to hear these things because I'm thinking in my mind, do we do that? Do we do that? Do we do that? And one of the most important things you said is talking about culture. And what do you think? I'm going to see if someone can answer this. What do you think the first thing that somebody says when they come to me and say, I have a family issue? What do you think they lead in with? Any guesses? Bingo. They apologize. My response to that is, please don't apologize. We have built that into our culture where people are comfortable to come to us. They come and they talk and we humanize them. There's no apology needed. They understand that they can come to us at any time, but you have to be genuine about that. If you don't put that into practices, people are going to see right through that. And how do you put that into practice? What benefits do you offer them? For us, I can only speak for Northeast Delta Dental, we have a great earned time off program for them. We offer everybody an extra day off quarterly just for these reasons. So every quarter they get an extra day off should something come up, should they have caregiving needs, should they have some responsibilities that fall outside of what you would call normal or expected. I love the thing when you said unexpected. Nobody ever expects to walk into an ill parent, right? I mean, I can tell you I'm dealing with one, my wife is dealing with both of hers. But when you see it in your own home, it really resonates with you. So I go into work thinking, what if any one of my employees faces this issue? How can we be better? I'm fortunate enough, I have an amazing CEO, Tom Raffio, who most of you probably know. He understands this challenge. So I don't have to battle putting extra benefits in it or making sure our benefits meet the needs of our employees. We pay for long-term disability at 100%. We pay for short-term disability at 100%. We have an extremely flexible workplace. Somebody needs, if we can't survive as a company for a day, a week, 2 weeks, we're doing something wrong as leaders of that business. We have to partner with our management. We have to partner with our colleagues and say, okay, are we prepared should the infamous, what if I get hit by a bus, right? We've all heard that line. I still have never, I'm going to knock on wood, I've never had someone get hit by a bus. But how can you be prepared? You can't be reactive to these things. You have to be proactive as an employer. Make sure you have these things put in place for your employees, that they feel comfortable, they understand, they know that you're there to support them. If they don't feel that support, and we love to say this at Northeast Delta Dental, and if you don't mind, I'm going to say NED, just to shorten it up, culture trumps all. There's nothing more important at our company than our culture. And that is from top to bottom, from Tom down to our whoever, because we look at our employees here. We like to say that there's not something we won't say in the mailroom that we won't say in the boardroom. So we listen to our people. And one of the most important things we just did this a couple weeks ago, we do an annual survey of our benefits. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What are we missing? Right? I'd love to sit in my ivory tower and think I know it all, but I don't. And we've already implemented 2 changes just from that survey alone, which we just got the results 2 weeks ago. And there's a lot more to come. But you can't just let your employees have a voice. You've got to listen to them and genuinely listen to them. And you also have to react to it. Like from that survey, I'll meet with people. I don't know who, it's anonymous, but I'll make sure we communicate at our all colleagues meetings. Hey, we've got some great suggestions. Here's why we can do some of these things. Here's why we can't do other things. And is there a happy medium to offer on some of them? The Paid Family Leave Act, in my opinion, we need one nationwide. Because for us, like we have employees in 13 different states, and you have 13 different sets of rules, and it's chaos. So I'm hoping that someday that's going to happen, and you may hear that, right, if you deal with other states. It's very tough administrative-wise. So we say, okay, without that, how can we be better on our own? And that's with, paying for short-term disability, paying for long-term disability. Make sure we have a nice earned time policy. Make sure we give extra time. Make sure we have flexible work schedules. Make sure our managers are trained on these topics, which I love that you mentioned that. We work on the word training, I was speaking earlier, I don't like it. We do workshops, we do educational sessions with our managers we just did one yesterday on empathetic communication. What if an employee comes to you with a serious issue? How do you respond to that? Rather than just saying, hey, go see the HR guy. Right? No, be human. Have that conversation with them. Of course, we're going to come into play at some point. You have to treat them on a human level. And I think that's what we do really well at our companies. We treat people right here, and they know. I love to joke with people. Is anyone in here an HR person? All right, I got one. I love to joke with people from the day they start till whenever. Look behind my door, and they're always like, that's a weird thing to say. And I have an umbrella legitimately behind my door. I go, look, there's not a sickle behind that door. Because we have a stigma, right? Yes. We are the principal's office. We are the, quote-unquote, bad. Yeah, exactly. And what I try to do is break down that wall immediately, where they know they can come to me at any time, any place. I put my cell phone number in my signature block. And when I started at Northeast Delta Dental, I said, it's there for a reason. You can call me 24/7. I'm accessible to you. And a lot of people have taken me up on that. And it's just one way you get on their level. They understand that you're there to support them. Because they will see through it, right? They'll see through you quickly if you're not genuine about your support for them. And we're always looking at better ways. And now, as a matter of fact, when we're done here, I'm going to be reaching out to you to come into one of our colleagues' meetings to speak about these topics. And we've done generational workforce educational sessions. We've done civility sessions. All of these things that just help our managers and our colleagues operate on an even playing field and making sure that we're genuine with each other, we're honest with each other, and they understand that we're there to support them. Nothing is worse if you have to go into work and speak to me or your boss and feel bad about it, right? Apologize for it. I want them coming in saying, they've got my back, this is going to be okay, because we love to tell people, and Tom Raffio was the first person to say it, family first. We can operate, we will make it, cross-training, big thing, making sure other people can do this job. We have a succession plan. We have, when we train folks, we make sure, can you do other functions? What can you, what you can't you do? It gives people that peace of mind, knowing if something happens to me, I'm good here. You never want, and this is not where I work now, but you never want someone to fear losing their job because they have a sick family member. Could there be a worse feeling? You're trying to provide care for a family member, and I think you had mentioned it, right? They don't expect this. They go to work one day and they get a call, right? How many people in here have had that happen to them? Not to get personal, but, right? I have, right? And you don't forget those. And my first reaction is, oh my God, what's going to happen with my job? My first reaction should be, how am I going to take care of my family member, right? But we all have that allegiance to our jobs, which isn't a bad thing. I'm glad my employees feel that way, but we have to reciprocate that loyalty to them. And there's all the ways we've touched on here are how you do it. Start with being human with them. Start with being genuine with them. Have the right benefits in place. Have them understand there is not an apology necessary should something happen. And one of our big factors is we have a tremendous relationship with our EAP provider. We don't only provide that EAP services to our employees, we provide it to their family members. So their family members have 24/7 access to it. And one of the big topics lately has been caregiving. We had them in. They did a big educational workshop on what services they can provide, how they can help them access it. Nothing's going to be better than you, though. I can't wait to have you come in. But they understand, though, that you have all of those support mechanisms for them, and it's accessible. It's accessible 24/7. We introduce our EAP provider at orientation, not onboarding. They're part of our orientation. We split the two. But we establish that relationship on day one with our employees, that they understand who people have heard the term, right? EAP. Well, what's an EAP? Employee Assistance Program. What is it? But they just hear, you have to make sure they understand it's not if you have an addiction. Like a lot of people associate with an EAP program with alcohol, drugs. That's it. They don't understand there's so many proactive resources or sources that are available to them through that EAP. Ours have helped people find daycare providers. They've helped with elder care. They've helped get with legal needs. There's just so many things. So it's important, if you're one of those decision makers, get a good EAP program. They are a partner of yours. It's not just something to check off a box and say, oh, we have an EAP program. But what does that mean to your employees? Do they understand it? It's something that needs to be in front of them at all times. We have posts on our intranet. We have posts in the office. We make sure they understand this is a partner of ours. This isn't just a service to check off a box. It's like if you offer health care, right? How many people do you think really understand how to use their health care? Probably not a ton. We work really hard, and I know it's not the same as this, but we work hard to make sure they're educated on that, just as we are with our EAP program. It should be on that same playing field as medical benefits, that they understand that that benefit is so critical to them. And we even offer through our EAP, people can go in and order books off of it. They have a library. One of the most popular topics, I just went through our survey with our EAP provider, is elder care. But it goes beyond that, right? Okay, great, you can go in and get a book, but what other resources available to you? I know that's a lot I'm throwing at you, but all of those things are what we try to do on a regular basis. And it all starts with the culture and making sure people understand that we support them and that there is no apology necessary if something happens to a family member. And I'm more than open to questions. I don't know, Dick, what the next step is, so I don't want to step on your toes.
Well, I got big toes. I'm not going to use, no, why don't you two, because you're going to, hopefully they're going to be the answering the questions. I'm just going to be a pretty face up here. Excellent job, Christina and Ryan. I probably mentioned earlier, I've been involved in caregiving and outreach relative to care-friendly workplaces for about 5 years now, and this is as good a presentation as you're going to get. Just excellent, really excellent. Let's see it. Do we have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Laura Clemenston. I'm from an organization called the Pre-Dad Social Club, of which everybody here has the ability to participate in what we do because they're not dead yet. We offer opportunities for people to openly talk about death, dying, and end of life, where there's about 700 people who've been plugged in. It's like very popular outside of a medical office and a religious institution. So I loved hearing everything both of you said. And Ryan, I can only think about, I don't know what is the profile of all of the workforce in the state of New Hampshire. You're a corporate employer. And I think about all the mom and pops, all the self-employed, and how can we go back to the community question? How can Delta Dental share from a corporate perspective, invite perhaps people in your client base that are mom and pop places to come and do lunch and learns at your facility that they don't have the bandwidth to do, to take that back to their organization or something like that.
Yeah, and we do have a huge, heavy involvement with our community.
Yep.
I can't begin to tell you how many folks utilize our office space for nonprofits and for those lunch and learns, workshops, things of that nature. It's almost every day someone is utilizing. So we offer that out. And our mantra at Northeast Delta Dental is everyone deserves a healthy smile. So we're intimately involved with making sure we serve the people that are our subscribers. We serve the communities that we're part of. I can't get into all of the things that we're part of because it would take the rest of the afternoon.
Awesome.
But it's a massive, it's who we are. Like if you have a chance, go onto our website and look at what our foundation, and you'll be amazed. And it's something that we believe and are invested so heavily in But those are some of the ways we do it now, and it's a constant involvement for us, and it's so genuine with Northeast Delta Dental, and that's not Ryan King, right? That starts with Tom Raffio and the folks that are there and part of these foundations, and not only that, but our board of directors as well, who truly believe in our vision of everyone deserves a healthy smile, and other ways that we can do that, opening up our workspace to nonprofits to utilize for, workshops, educational sessions, things of that nature. That's just some of what we do.
So that's awesome. I guess I look to think about all the other employers or corporate that aren't Delta Dental, how they could do something more communal with folks in their area or region and say, this is an issue that faces us all. How can we come together and have somebody spearhead it to spread that information and support out? Anyhow.
No, that's a good question. I don't have an immediate
No,
solution to it,
yeah.
but it's a great way to think. And some of these things are, and I can't speak like for the chamber. Do they have programs like that where companies get together and discuss these topics, or
All the time.
all the time? Man, that's what I thought, but I didn't want to answer for you.
No, I do appreciate that, because as we were going through this program, I was thinking, this really would make a good workshop. And we open those up to members and non-members alike.
I'm in the Seacoast area, so it just makes me think about what is the Portsmouth Chamber? What are all the other chambers doing? And maybe the chamber is a place, but not everybody is a member of the chamber. And so, anyhow.
We have the largest chamber here in Concord.
Yeah.
400 members.
Wow. Thank you.
If you ever
Wonderful
needed
question.
assistance getting a speaker, like if something got together, or I can always work with our partners too. I'm quite sure, and I don't want to speak for them, but our EAP provider would gladly present and talk about resources and things of that nature, because they also have their fingers on the pulse of communities, not just because they help Northeast Delta Dental or they're our partner. They know what's out there. So that would be a really good person to have speak at anything.
I'd just like to follow up on that, because I think it's such an important point that you raise. I think that people like AARP, people like the Alliance for Healthy Aging would be willing, and at least I would be willing to help facilitate those conversations, because they're near and dear to our heart. And I would just say, keep us in mind. The other point I wanted to make was, we do this, and we do go out and speak to different groups and organizations. And I used to, when I was working, earning money, I'm working now, but I don't earn any money.
Want a job?
If I don't have to supervise people, and if I don't have to make any decisions, is the importance of, I forgot what I was going to say. So, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
I was hoping you'd forget about the quiz.
Yeah, no, the quiz, that's going to be simple, but we're available. I think that's ultimately the point. And, the point that I was going to make, when I used to be in the world more prominently, I used to go out and speak, and I used to say 95% of businesses in the state of New Hampshire are less than 50 employees. To me, it goes to your point. And if you look at the AARP material, Christina, the supporting caregivers in the workplace, but they also have a document relative to small businesses and smaller organizations. And that could be another resource. But don't hesitate to reach out to one of us, and you can do it through the Chamber or to Granite VNA, and we'll be happy to be involved, because that's one of the things I do to keep myself out of trouble. But these two just did an excellent job. Other questions? Come on. Okay.
So one of the things you mentioned, Ryan, I think that lots of that was so resonated with us. I work at County New Hampshire National Alliance on the Wellness. I think one of the things that you mentioned is, and I don't know if it was sort of like, not necessarily that you meant it, but maybe you did, but you mentioned this 24/7 accessibility, which I think is something that can be challenging. And you mentioned it in your role as you feel like you have 24/7 accessibility, but I think that part of that in culture is that it's sort of, I think that we're careful about feeling like we can have 24/7 accessibility, because then what does that mean for caregivers? I think that that's a sort of a touchy subject. How do you manage that? Do you feel like that's something that Because I feel like people, we can say to them, as a caregiver, you don't have to have 24/7, but if we're 24/7, maybe not 24/7, but after hours, this sort of like when your work schedule is a little bit different. How do you manage that in terms of people sort of feeling like they can manage their caregiving, but not feeling like they can walk away from their work?
So we don't, I just want to make sure I understand the question. We don't expect anybody that works for us to be available 24/7, ever.
Okay.
I offer myself for that. I can tell you, I don't get many calls like at night or weekends. Our EAP is available 24/7. So most people will go to them first rather than me. But I want them to understand if they need me, they can get in touch with me. But we don't have that expectation of anybody in the company. I just put that on myself. But it's because it's genuine. I care more about my people than I could ever put in words to anybody. And I think they understand that that's genuine. But yeah, I don't put anything on them that they're available 24/7. And they understand, we try flexibility, that how do they feel comfortable with, hey, I have these caregiver responsibilities. How do I do both? How do I, they want to keep working. So we're flexible. We'll create flexible schedules. We'll work with them. Hey, if you need to go out for an appointment for an hour, make up the hour. But they have to work closely with their manager too. It has to be symmetrical. It has to be communication. But we work with them in any way possible to make sure that they're comfortable, not worrying about their job when they need to be worrying about a family member. But it has to be genuine. We don't say it just to come here and do a presentation. We genuinely do these things. But I think your question was,
So how do you, if you have people who are working this sort of odd schedule, how do other people in the company feel like they can sort of say, well, I'm going to work these hours versus these hours? Like, does it seem like, I think it's just something that I feel like sometimes when emails come in overnight or at all hours in the morning, people can have this sense of like, well, should I be working? And I feel like those are difficult things to manage.
Yeah, no, people, our employees understand what their responsibilities are. We don't expect them, for instance, I'll give you an example. My staff, I'll be sending emails at night, weekends.
Yeah.
I let them know, you don't need to reply to these ever. If it's something urgent, you're going to know, and I'll let you know it's urgent. But otherwise, it's because I'm getting stuff out of my brain.
Yeah.
But we don't have that expectation. Our employees are not, for the most part, unless you're part of the executive leadership team, probably not getting emails at night and all weekends. And they don't even have that. There's a large segment of our population don't have access to the emails other than in work. We do that for a reason. We don't want them working. Never mind the federal laws and the FLSA and all these other things that apply to it. But we have a huge respect for work-life balance as well. Our work week is 37 and a half hours. Give us those 37 and a half hours. We don't want you working outside. I mean, there are times during the year where our employees are going to have to work some overtime, but that's the exception, not the rule. And does that answer the question a little more effectively?
I think so. Yep, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
I had a question about, I see this with colleagues and hear about this in general, about the cross-training, but sometimes I see the repercussion, and I feel like maybe it didn't happen at Northeast Dental.
Just say Ned.
Ned, sorry. But what I've seen at some places is that they're cross-trained, and then there's some resentment because the person might have to be out for 3 months. And now you have the one person, because it's only one person cross-trained or one person that's carrying the workload of two, and then they're like resentful of that coworker that's out. And then the morale goes down. And so I'm thinking maybe you don't just cross-train one person is probably the difference that you do. But how do you balance that so the morale stays up and stays positive?
Yep.
Like I said, I've seen the cross training, but it just doesn't seem to be positive.
And that kind of piggybacks on part of her question as well. You said, do people, if it's happening here, do they? And I don't want this to sound like we're the perfect company, right? It's all about your culture. Like, our people understand, what if that was me? Would I want them to be resentful of me? Now, do I say it might be groundswell here and there? There may be. But those are the exceptions, not the rules. And people understand, and we do cross-train multiple people. I'm going to give a perfect example. We have a department of 2 people. One of them went out on leave this summer for a couple of months. We met with the other person prior and said, hey, look, the other individual is going to be out. A lot of the burden's going to fall on you. Here's how we're going to help you. Here's the other resources that are available internally. If you get overwhelmed, you need to communicate with us. And we also rewarded her at the end of that time. We gave her a bonus and said, hey, thank you. We said a lot of thank yous during, right? Because thank yous mean a lot to people, especially at our company. So there was a lot of thank yous. There was a lot of checking in. How are things going? Are you overwhelmed? Because a lot of people don't want to come to you and say, oh, I'm too busy. I can't handle this. So it's all about making sure those avenues of communication are open, that there's clear expectations set at the beginning, there's a true conversation about what other resources are available, and not how are you going to help us during her leave, how are we going to help you during the leave? This is what we're going to do for you. We know you're going to help us, but this is what we're going to do for you. And we rewarded her at the end of it, not because we have to, because we want to. And that's how people understand it. They're like, wow, they communicated, they looked out for me, I got a nice bonus for doing my job. But we respect the fact and identify that she stepped up. And we try to eliminate those problems by having those healthy conversations and making sure that there's just a full, expectations, goals, and objectives. Here's how we're going to achieve them, and here's how we're going to help you achieve them. And it's just genuine, right? I'm the world's worst liar. So what I'm telling you is what we do. I can't say every company does it well. I've been at companies that didn't do it well. There was just an expectation people would step up and do it, and hey, thanks, pat on the back. It's how you communicate with those people and show them that you're genuine about your appreciation for what they've done. And that just happened. We just gave her the bonus last week. So
I would just add to that we have an office of 5 people. One of them was out earlier this year for 2 months doing an interim assignment with a different unit within AARP. And we looked at it as her job had multiple functions, and we had cross-trained those functions. So it wasn't the whole job. So we could spread out her work among the 4 of us, and we're lucky to have a lot of volunteers like Dick here, Dan Wise is back there, who we can draw on. So, but thinking about it in terms of functions and not jobs, I think makes it more manageable and makes it so the burden doesn't fall all on one person.
I think we're pretty much out of time, and I think some of us will be around after. If you want to ask questions, we'll be very happy to stick around and chat with you.
And Dick, can I just say one more thing?
Oh, yeah.
So I brought extra copies of these 2 publications that I talked about, so feel free to find me up front and I'll share them with you.
So the quiz, I'll be very quick. In a community, you're all part of the community. Each one of your organizations is a community. And you're a leader in your own right within that community. So be a force to help grow the issues of support for family caregivers. Secondly, culture. And Ryan spoke to this a number of times, but he hit it right on the attack right on the head. It's all about the culture. It starts at the top. But the supervisor manager is so critical to success in building the relationship within an organization. And last thing, it's a little bit intangible, but what you do, what an organization does, provides hope. And that's a very, very powerful force in helping people to achieve the productivity outcomes of your organization. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience, and thank the panel for a very, very great presentation.
Dick, thank you so much. Christina, Ryan, excellent presentation. Congratulations to the VNA on 125 years of service. Hope you have more than 125 years to go. And shout out to our friends at Concord TV. They have archived this event. So if you know someone who should have been here that wants to hear it, there will be that opportunity, I guess, on our website or YouTube page. So thanks again, Concord TV, and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.